Identity is, well, it's a tough thing to wrap your head around. Defining who you are, why you are that way, and what this means for your journeys taken and those yet to come, in a world that is always moving, all while being expected to maintain your composure, it's exhausting. For me, as I'm sure it has been for almost anyone else, there are days where I cannot help but feel like I am missing something. Some key part of me that gives me a real, worthwhile identity, and by not knowing what this is or having it in my arsenal, I'm failing to reach my true potential. Other days, I feel that I'm all too familiar with myself, but the person I recognize is not someone I'm proud to be, and the thought of the years it has taken to make me this way instill a fear for the future, for how long it could take for me to ever really change or become that version of myself I want to be. It makes the idea of even trying to know who you are or who you are meant to be seem impossibly exhausting. But the roads taken towards self-discovery, those which beget inner reflection and prompt action, leading to the actualization of your truest, best self, they are roads worth taking and appreciating in whatever form they manifest. It may sound strange, but these sentiments are some of many that I came to appreciate during my adventures through Sonic Frontiers. Frontiers is a game that released at one of the Blue Blur's lower points in life. Since the middling to poor reception of Sonic Forces, a game that was supposed to inspire hope for the future of the franchise, given its prior missteps since arguably as far back as 2011, Frontiers' announcement came with a lot of hesitation. Many were critical of the game upon its initial reveal, and it's hard to blame people. It felt like we knew nothing of the game until a matter of weeks before release. Would it look good? Were they able to make Sonic not only good but fun to control? Was there a well-written narrative, consistent in its complexity? Was Sonic going to actually feel like Sonic again? And so, when the time finally came for the title's release, what did we get? In my eyes, we got Sonic back. Sonic Frontiers is not a perfect experience, and it is hard to ignore its shortcomings at times. The graphical fidelity is never downright horrible, but rarely inspiring. The pop-in can be as negligible as annoying or as impactful as outright making it difficult to play, and not all levels, worlds, or mechanics were built equally. But as a full experience, these shortcomings do not come close to the overall impact this game has on a narrative level. Sonic Frontiers is a narrative of many things. In the scope of the franchise, it is a success story, being a successful Sonic game that was engaging, fun to control, and had a substantial amount of content. It was one that paid homage to and respected the history of Sonic, and it was a game that both the fans and developers alike continued to support for a full year after its release. The game's story is a narrative of loneliness and isolation, and the struggles inherent in these moments of vulnerability as you fight against all feelings of weakness to find your inner strength and live on to see a new horizon. It's a narrative of exploration and discovery as an open-world experience set in a rich world of ancient lore and history that builds upon the greater narrative of the Sonic franchise. Frontiers, for Sonic as a game, a character, and a world, is all of these and more, and in doing so, it establishes itself as something the franchise needed more than ever. But, to me, Frontiers is best summed up as a narrative about identity. The pursuit for and accumulation of identity is enshrined in the very fabric of Sonic Frontiers as an experience. The Starfall Islands embody the experience of accepting unremitting change, both of ourselves and of the world around us. Cyberspace, as a coagulation of Sonic's memories in both form and function, echo to the past of our hero, while the character arcs of Sonic's closest allies strive towards embracing an unfamiliar future. And, when push comes to shove, in a confrontation where stakes are high and passions higher, we see what it really means to find your flame. Accepting who we are in any given moment can be a struggle. It is more than easy to find aspects of the self that we can critique, regardless of if they have earned such scrutiny. What isn't quite as simple, however, is letting yourself change in response to this dissatisfaction. The action of bringing about change is sometimes too overwhelming to even initiate, or sometimes the idea of something unrecognizable is one that paralyzes you with fear and uncertainty. But the truth is that change is not only a part of living, it is innate in the human experience. To accept our ability to change and be changed is part of accepting ourselves and our identity. This facet of identity, the constant of change and the need to embrace it, is one of the many key themes made apparent in Frontiers' open world design, but it's one that is communicated with much more subtlety than the others. In fact, given the nature of the theme, it is one that only arises as a result of the game's willingness to explore and expand upon so many other themes and tones within the world of the Starfall Islands. I think this notion is best understood when observing how we come to know the first of these islands, Kronos Island. When Sonic is plucked from the world he knows to this strange archipelago of islands, he is given no exposition beyond knowing that this place seems to host the Chaos Emeralds. The presentation of the scene we are exposed to shrouds our environment in an air of mystique, unsettling yet undeniably intriguing. The world is dark and overcast, a heavy rain and fog drowning out anything that isn't within the immediate vicinity. We begin seeing the thick moss that adorns the curious stone structures, who, in their dilapidated state, make apparent that this is a place rich in history and lore. The music that embellishes these moments too feels as if it is an innocent curiosity, incredulous and oblivious to the consequent isolation of being thrust into this world, a short piano melody that repeats with naught but long, hollow echoes and sirens as a garnish. These early moments evoke a strong desire to move forward and learn what all these new sights mean, lending themselves well to initiating the overarching theme of exploration and discovery. For these early moments, such discovery is guided. You're on a linear path and are thus exposed to the same basic exposition as anyone else, establishing a solid foundation for the greater experiences yet to take place. This immediate satiation of the curiosity and mystery established is remarkably effective in its own right. However, what makes these sentiments stronger is the ways in which they evolve. Come the closing instances of the tutorial sequence, there is a very powerful, immediate shift in the way we perceive the world around us. The level design, once linear to encourage those first steps, is now completely open. Exploration that was once a simple satiation of curiosity, as we took the only path ahead of us, is now a necessity to understand this giant, rich and overwhelming landmass. The innocence of mystery, being the only one to stumble upon this island and consequently earning the right to uncover this world's lore and history, distinguishes itself now as an unshakable isolation in a world that is hostile and unfamiliar. The music reflects this, that short melody expanding upon itself into the Kronos Island leitmotif. It is a slow, lonesome melody, so distant from the new drawn-out anechoic violins, one that is forced to persist. In many moments, the piano becomes so overwhelmed by these distant violins, only to reclaim the spotlight, a testament to this encroached solitude trying its hardest to stay strong. Such a strong and seamless evolution of the mysterious and innocent tones into overwhelming and overarching themes of isolation and self-masking twist our motivations. Our fuel for exploration becoming one that is no longer driven by fascination, but by necessity. And again, these feelings fuel the newly evolved structure of the world. We have one overarching goal, to find the Chaos Emeralds, one which aligns with our interests of felling the Titans and saving our friends who are trapped in the digital prison we barely escaped from. In our listless, disoriented exploration, fueled not by desire but by obligation, we start with no knowledge, and thus there is a strong sense of needing to engage with this large world. This engagement, from exploring the structures to completing the map puzzle challenges or finding the many character interactions across the island, becomes a necessity, effectively using the narrative forged by the atmosphere and expositions in encouraging and directing a style of gameplay. As you continue to explore Kronos Island, the tones and themes continue to evolve. With each Chaos Emerald comes a new musical movement, where the melody progresses from this shy, overwhelmed tune into a courageous, stable force that even becomes congruent with those once distant violins, closing this gap between the self and the world, and turning obligation into courage and courage into action. I could go over the ways in which every single movement theme evolves upon the styles and tones and emotions propagated by those before them, and how this is reflected in our engagement with the world around us, but even in saying that, I have made my point. The dynamics of the music and the ways it influences our engagement with the world, encourages particular gameplay, and reinforces the structure of the game is not just apparent, but powerful and ubiquitous. But what does this mean for the theme of identity? Well, there are the obvious ways in which many of the themes established through these dynamics are a reflection of the complexities of identity, such as the masking mentioned earlier, a need to exist in one emotional state or stability in spite of the world around you imposing other contrary feelings. It is more the very existence of such a dynamic world. It is the notion of change itself. The world around Sonic is one that makes him and us feel many ways in many different moments. That curiosity, isolation, obligation, intrigue, courage, determination, listlessness, invisibility, these are all emotions propagated by the same world, all instigated by different perspectives, thoughts, or actions, and yet they are undeniably all true and real. The displacement felt when being introduced to an unknown world that forces you into action. The vulnerability felt when finally being able to abuse the overwhelming power that propositioned your journey in the first place, only to lose it moments later alongside any semblance of familiarity that started to awaken within. The irrefutable fear that overwhelms us when the journey's end feels so close, but so too does our life, as weakness floods the body in the face of these towering hurdles standing before us, and all we can do is just keep smiling. These thoughts, feelings, energies, they are all true. They are all a part of Sonic. They are simply a facet of humanity, a manifestation of identity's truest constant, change. In establishing a myriad of complex themes, Frontiers chooses not only to construct a narrative concerned with them, it goes beyond and uses their very inclusion, omission, and development to propagate the overarching, greater theme of change. With every movement, the way we feel changes. With every new fragment of lore and history uncovered, what we know changes. To extend this further, with every puzzle complete, even the world around us changes, its forms and fixtures gradually being revealed to us, and new tools and obstacles appearing before us. The narrative of the setting itself is one steeped in change, the lore of an ancient civilization that once inhabited these islands, whose worlds lived and died and were changed and continue to change. Everything changes in this world and its stories, and that's okay. In the narrative of Sonic Frontiers, Sonic 2 undergoes physiological changes. With every friend he tries to save, he takes on an illness, the cyber corruption that ultimately puts his life at stake. It weakens him, and he makes it apparent that he is afraid to express that weakness, that change. But when looking in retrospect, everything around us, around him, has been changing or changed. It is just a facet of the lived experience, and it is one that is okay, something that Sonic goes on to learn thanks to those very friends he sought to save. Who Sonic is, how the world is to us, and how we feel and think, what we know and what we can do, what our identity is and will be, and what this means to us. These are things privy to the universal constant that is change. The Starfall Islands of Sonic Frontiers lay this sentiment out for us, so that we may learn to embrace and accept ourselves, not in spite of, but instead in line with how we change. When the story ends, all that we are and have been, it becomes a part of us.
To break through it all and hold the down.
Something that is not too far removed from that notion of change, the force of time itself is another powerful contributor or inhibitor for a personal exploration of and satisfaction in our own identities. Looking at ourselves through the lens of what we have been or experienced is often the easiest way to interpret who we are, but if it is the only lens we afford ourselves, it simply denies us the prospects of what we can yet achieve and become. This binary of past and future is something overtly and rather proficiently explored within Sonic Frontiers. There's been an undeniable fluctuation in the expression of Sonic, his worlds and his allies throughout his past, to the point where many of these facets in past titles have felt either overdone or unrecognizable. Between the constant reprisal of settings like Green Hill Zone and Chemical Plant Zone, and the intense shifts in how characters like Tails are written, it almost seemed like trying to perpetuate this world would only result in a complete regression or rewriting of the core aspects of the series. Yet, amazingly, Frontiers tackles the blurriness that has obscured the identity of the franchise with finesse in its use of the prison-like realm of cyberspace, and how characters interact with and within this world. Being the scene that sets the first moments of control we have in this game, cyberspace is a realm dredged in conflicting familiarity and inexperience. Visually, this first locale is just Green Hill Zone again, perhaps a sight that is all too familiar, but it is littered with inexplicable floating platforms, distant structures, and seemingly no real end to its confines. Its place in the world is given no explanation, so regardless of appearances, it is, in reality, so far removed from the real Green Hill Zone, and the supporting score is something so unlike anything remotely inspired by the iconic loops and twists of the locale. As we continue to explore more of the cyberspace locations, it is made very clear that their visual themes are all inspired by fragments of the worlds that Sonic has explored. The aforementioned Green Hills, Chemical Plant, Sky Sanctuary, and an amalgamation of the many cities Sonic has explored into one eternal highway. While I will go on to praise the integrations of these iconic locales, I do want to mention that I do think it is unfortunate that the environments chosen were such safe and stale choices. It is quickly obvious that these levels are supposed to instill a type of nostalgia, a comfortable familiarity, but it cannot be denied that there are other ways to engage in such an emotional response. The Eternal Highway theme is perhaps the most representative of what could have been. These levels could be amalgamates of the many varied, yet similar locales Sonic has visited in his tried history, something that would not only complement that yearning for familiarity, but also play well into the consequent distortion that comes with cyberspace's design. Nonetheless, this aspect of cyberspace achieves well what it needs to. As we come to recognize, it serves as a manifestation of the locations of Sonic's past. It even goes further and integrates many of the level designs of Sonic's past games, establishing these pockets of cyberspace as these strange accumulations of Sonic and his history. A notion that is explained by the world to be true. Cyberspace is explicitly defined as a digital world that draws data from the outside world and often distorts and contorts in response to the memories of those interacting with it. In this case, it is quite literally a representation of Sonic's past. On its own, as this manifestation of the Blue Blur's history, cyberspace is at least interesting. But as I said, cyberspace is a place of such conflicting interests. It becomes much more engaging when these conflicts are explored, especially with regard to the language and connotation that describe this realm. The intensity of the clashing values of familiarity and the unknown are made much more apparent when the danger of the realm is understood. This is a realm that Sonic and his friends were unceremoniously forced into, one that is regularly described as inescapable due to its dangers and seemingly unending nature. When exploring the Starfall Islands and interacting with his friends, Sonic sees only these digital reflections of his allies, whose physical forms are still lost to cyberspace. It is readily described as a prison, holding those dearest to Sonic hostage until he finds a way to break that barrier between realms. With that in mind, interpreting the conflicting nature of cyberspace is given a lot more meaning. Cyberspace is a place steeped in memory, in Sonic's past, in the world's most readily attributed to the identity of Sonic. And it is also a prison, a projection of the mind that once entered is almost impossible to escape. It is a realm that feels so subsequently familiar and unfamiliar, and one that engages both in our nostalgia and yet exists as a far cry from tradition. These are incredibly strong representations that seem to be at odds with each other, almost leaving us in a position of cognitive dissonance until the message of such a conflict is made clear. It is a place steeped in memory, in history, in the past, that should we dedicate ourselves to, will leave us trapped. Cyberspace is built upon what has been the identity of Sonic, but it is a world that relies on the past and only the past. It is a prison of the mind that begets no development and no opportunities for us to move forward. It is a prison of the past. This reading of cyberspace is only furthered when the story arcs of those who were trapped within are explored. Frontiers has a much more gripping, well-written manifestation of the Sonic cast, and these writings are steeped in the very contrary notion to that nostalgia of cyberspace. Instead, these journeys are all about those stuck in the prison of the past, accepting their present, and learning to move toward a brighter future. I could try and explore the stories of the cast, but I don't think I could do their stories due justice. So for this discussion, I would like to pass things on to the biggest enthusiast of the Blue Blur I know, Dizzydennis.
Sonic Frontiers contains one of the most in-depth and serious stories we've had since Sonic and the Black Knight. It's emotional, epic, and takes all the characters on an introspective journey. Moreover, it's one that has really struck a chord with me. Having each character trapped in the digital realm within the Starfall Islands, interacting with the Coco, and learning about the eradication of the Ancients provides a surprisingly effective reflection into each of their personal hurdles they need to overcome. Kronos Island, we have Amy Rose working with Sonic to reunite a pair of Coco lovers. Despite some bickering between the lovely couple, they do eventually allow the Coco to be reunited. In what turns out to be one of the most emotional scenes of the game, we learn that the two did in fact reunite in their past life, only to be killed by the end moments later. This inspires Amy to do more with her kind heart and unwavering ability to see the good in all people. Much like how Sonic saved and inspired her back on Little Planet, she wants to be a similar hero too. Amy vows to spread her love around the world, which also implies she'll find more of her own identity within it. While a bit more blunt, in the Final Horizon story, Amy takes a stand saying that she will no longer be a damsel in distress, and ends up being the one to shepherd the Coco's safety from the End's corruption. Amy's kindness can change lives, and it has before. It's nice to see Amy gain the confidence to know how effective she can be towards others. Knuckles was captured on Ares Island before Sonic and his friends even showed up. He arrived alone, was captured alone, and remained alone. That isolation Knuckles must have felt when trapped reflects his separation from the world due to his duty to guard the Master Emerald. Of course, when Sonic saves them, the two bicker and try to outdo each other, but there's always that friendship between them. They care about each other. This is no better reflected than around the climax of Knuckles' story, where he realizes the ancient ruins are very similar to the ones on Angel Island. This demonstrates that the ancients who did escape from the End's bloodlust migrated to areas like Angel Island, where they eventually evolved into Chao. After protecting the ruins, Sonic and Knuckles have a heart-to-heart. In a moment of sincere camaraderie, Sonic knows not to break the tension and allows Rad Red to take the time he needs. Knuckles opens up, revealing that the ancients were wiped out much like the Echidna clan. The lifestyle of being a guardian unfailingly has become a burden for Knuckles. He reveals he's envious of Sonic's freedom, and Sonic simply reassures him, "Then do it!" Knuckles realizes that he is more than just his responsibility to the Master Emerald. He vows to see more of the world and attain the freedom he sees in Sonic. After the End is defeated, Knuckles just wants to return to his island, but with a new view on his role in the world. Tails' story is the one that requires the least extrapolation to understand. The writing very directly addresses the criticism of how Tails has been characterized for years. His regression from a hero to a sidekick to a coward has been intense. Here he speaks directly with Sonic, and asks if he's a burden. He doubts himself as he stands under Sonic's shadow, and in spite of Sonic's reassurances, proclaims himself as widely inconsistent. Sonic laughs it off, saying how much he admires Tails for his past accomplishments, and that needing some help to stay standing is just a part of growing. This sentiment resonates with Tails, as the Blue Blur helps Coco prepare for his hero to arrive. Tails gains an epiphany, realizing that if he wants to ever get out of Sonic's shadow, he has to go out on his own. Tails worries that Sonic will be upset that he wants to carve his own path, but Sonic shows support throughout. Tails knows that he can be a hero, but he needs to get to a point where it's something he is at his core. He knows that he can be a hero on the same level as Sonic, but he just needs the confidence to do so. Tails has a story we've seen before, but now it feels like a strong statement. Tails will achieve whatever he sets out to do. Villains also have a lot of growth. Sage's entire story is her learning about real emotions due to observing Sonic. She learns that calculations aren't what makes life worth living, and is consistently proven wrong by Sonic and his determination. Sage finds love as well, thanks to her relationship with Dr. Eggman, who, too, gets some growth. Eggman is trapped in cyberspace for a vast majority of the game, with some slapdash cutscenes tying his growth with Sage together. Thankfully, the Egg Memos add a lot to this story. It also provides some fantastic references for longtime fans. Eggman is still a horrible person with terrible intentions, but thanks to Sage, he's able to find another person he truly loves. It's not like with Cubot or Orbot or Metal Sonic. Sage is special as he truly sees her as a daughter. In both endings of Sonic Frontiers, we see Eggman just wants to go home with his daughter. It's a nice relationship that doesn't redeem Eggman for his horrible misdeeds, but gives a different side to him that we don't always see. My favorite detail is that Sage doesn't see saving the world as a heroic deed like Sonic would. She's simply making sure that Dr. Eggman will survive, and that there will be a way for him to conquer the planet later on. So yes, she is saving everybody, but that's more of a byproduct of needing to save her father. It's just wonderful to see the villains still being bad guys, but with more dimension added to their character. Sonic Frontiers has one of my favorite stories within the entire Sonic series. It respects the canon, treats these characters with depth, and has a lot to think about. The topic of finding your place in the world is relatable and poignant. Sure, it fumbles a bit here and there, but it leaves an impact. I love this game so much, and the story is something I haven't stopped thinking about since November 9th of 2022. Sonic Frontiers is a really special game.
These stories of Amy's ability to change lives with her passion, of Knuckles' newfound desire to see the world, and of Tails' acceptance of himself as strong regardless of Sonic's presence. These are stories of creating and chasing an unfamiliar future. They are stories that observe the past without getting lost in them. They acknowledge who they've been, who they are, and most importantly, who they can be. And in taking these personal journeys, in clarifying for themselves the futures they can aspire to, they become richer characters with stronger identities than ever. The way cyberspace operates as an inescapable realm that manifests and represents aspects of their host's past, it's a relatable abstraction of the mind's attempts to interpret identity. When trying to come to terms with who we are, the way we have been is such an easy to access and alluring pool of realities to draw from, and it is not inherently a bad thing to look to the past. But if all we do is look down, the mind becomes a prison of the past, one that never offers us the chance to become someone new, to find and forge and embrace a new identity for ourselves. Frontiers shows us that if we instead break through it all and don't look down, if we continue to take steps forward and engage in the potentials we can achieve, then we can be free from the prison of the past and strive for the future.
I've been there and I've seen it. I'm never gonna stop believing it. You'll find your flame.
When the world around us is so vast and seemingly unending, getting lost in the journey of discovering who we are as just one of the billions of lives that live around us is a given. There is no single answer to discovering who we are, no wrong or right path to take, no leader to follow. Instead, we have to become our own leader, tend to our own journey, ignite our own sparks so that maybe one day, in the heat of it all, we can find our flame. The moments that serve as a precursor to the final confrontations on each of the Starfall Islands are moments of an almost intense clarity. Through our time exploring the islands, discovering the many secrets and mysteries of the ancients in their home, and being immersed in the ever-changing moods and sentiments propagated by the accompanying scores, and in letting ourselves create and be changed. In returning time and again to the warped mindscape prison of cyberspace, and brandishing the same determination of our closest allies to reach the future rather than overwhelm ourselves in our pasts. In going on these journeys and more, finding the Chaos Emeralds and moving ever closer to that which threatens all that we hold dear, we have time to reflect. Time to reassure ourselves of what we are doing, why we are doing it, and who this makes us. The Titan fights are undeniably some of the most incredible spectacles in a Sonic game, period. The setup and delivery make for an incredibly powerful, emotionally fueled engagement that has you constantly pushing, striving, fighting with all that you have been, all that you are, and all that you will be. Each fight starts with a small challenge in ascending the Titan to reach its crown, where the 7th and final Chaos Emerald we need to become supersonic is kept. These moments are tense and uncertain, from climbing the legs and spine of Giganto as the Kronos Island leitmotif melds itself into a tune of overwhelming urgency as the choir of strings lead a tune of diminishing hope. To the towering uneasiness brought upon by the wyvern in the sky, as you are flung into a heavenward chase above the island you've so thoroughly scoured, its own tune, one of despair turned to determination, constantly pausing, as if weightless with no footing beneath for just brief moments. To the perilous pits of the night, as a true duel of speed and power takes place, waiting for the moment to exploit the mistakes of your opponent in order to ascend. This constant pressure to never back down, obvious in the never diminishing supporting guitar, led by loud, long and solid brass instruments. In every engagement, there is pressure and there is doubt. But there is also hope, determination, and, unlike the open-ended exploration of the islands, there is a single, visible, and reachable goal for us. It's these moments that instill a recollection of all that we've done to get to this stage. It's a moment that leaves you no choice but to take the future into your own hands. And when that crown is reached and that Chaos Emerald Vault unlocked, it all takes form. We find our flame. It is speed, it is power, it is fists flying, fueled by rage and fear and loneliness, instilled with love and yearning and solitude. It's hard to capture exactly why these moments feel so right, why they feel like the perfect culmination not only of the journeys taken on the Starfall Islands, but those so many missteps that left such an intense pressure on Frontier's success. Other than to say, it just feels so Sonic. These are moments that manifest every emotion imaginable, and they are done through a character that we get to watch express every one of those emotions. Sonic's time on the Starfall Islands and in cyberspace are brimming with compassion, cockiness, power, fear, vulnerability, doubts, anxiety, self-efficacy, determination, a desire to see the future. And these moments feel like they are being fought with every single one of these emotions. The intensity of the tracks that accompany these clashes are unlike anything the Bluebird has ever been accompanied by before. They are overflowing with energy and emotion, with vitality and angst. These moments feel like they represent something new for Sonic. They are, again, the accumulation of everything these islands are, and the many trials and tribulations they have thrown his way. They are moments of being changed in an ever-changing world, of fighting for a future without a second thought about the past. They are a battle for identity, for knowing who we are, for finding our flame. Sonic Frontiers is always going to be a special game in my heart. And sure, this interpretation of the narrative is one that explores the facets of identity, of learning to accept oneself and the many ways that manifests, is part of that. What the other part of it is, I don't think I'll ever know the words to express. It is a game that just feels right to me. And I know that that's such a cop-out answer and perhaps not a very satisfying conclusion, but I can't help it. The way this game has been making me feel since it came out is something I can only liken to the way I felt when I first fell in love with the franchise and the character. It's a game that makes me want to be like Sonic, someone who is compassionate and strong, never faltering, and sure, maybe even a bit too witty and cocky for my own good at times. It's a game that makes me just want to run, to go to places I would never have gone before, just letting the wind take me there. It's a game that makes me smile, frown, laugh, cry, and fight. It's a game that has me feeling proud to be me, and feeling like I can always keep striving to become my best self. Sonic Frontiers' unfailing ability to inspire such hope and passion towards knowing who we are and who we can be, towards exploring and being proud of our identities, towards finding our flames, that is what makes Sonic Frontiers a game with heart.